Number 2, I worked in a cubicle for 17 years. Most business books are written by consultants and professors who haven't spent much time in a cubicle. That's like writing a first-hand account of the Donner Party based on the fact that you've eaten beef jerky. Me, I've gnawed on an ankle or two. Number 3, I'm a trained hypnotist. Years ago, I took a class on how to hypnotize people. As a byproduct of this training, I learned people are mindless, irrational, easy manipulated dolts. I think I paid $500 to learn that. And it's not just the so-called good subjects. It's everybody. It's how our brains are wired. You make up your mind first, and then you rationalize it second. But because of the odd mapping of our perceptions, you're convinced beyond a doubt that your decisions are based on reason. They aren't. Important scientists have done studies proving that the area of the brain responsible for rational thought doesn't even activate until after you do something. They were important scientists, but not so important that I remember their names or that you'd care, but I'm sure it's true because I read it in a magazine. You can confirm the fact using hypnosis, by giving a person an irrational post-hypnotic suggestion and asking later why the subject did what he did. He will insist it made sense at the time, employing a logic more tortured than Pavarotti at a Tiny Tim concert. A hypnotist quickly develops a complete distrust for the connection between a person's reasons and their actions. It fundamentally changed the way I look at the world. Number 4. Nobody believes statistics anyway. This is a huge time saver for me. It removes any guilt I might have about fabricating statistics. If you're a normal person, you tend to believe any studies that support your current views and ignore everything else. Therefore, any reference I might make to legitimate research is wasted. If we can agree on the futility of trying to sway you with legitimate research, it will save us both a lot of trouble. That doesn't mean I will ignore statistics. Far from it. Throughout this tape, I will make references to scientific studies. Of course, they'll all be total fabrications. If you think about it, most of the studies you see are either completely misleading or intentionally biased. This tape is no different, except that I don't underestimate your intelligence. How could I? Why is business so absurd? I don't know why the economy works, but I'm sure it isn't because brilliant people are managing it. My guess is that if you sum up all the absurd activities of management, the idiocies somehow cancel out, thus producing cool things that you want to buy, such as Nerf balls and Snapple. Add the law of supply and demand to the mix, and you've pretty much described the theory of economics. 90% of all new business ventures fail. Apparently, 10% of the time you get lucky, and that's enough to support the modern economy. I'm betting that's what separates us from the animals. Animals are only lucky 9% of the time. I suspect this is true because I play strip poker with my cats, and they rarely win. In fact, it's gotten to the point where they run like cowards at the sound of my electric shaver. I think it's important to understand the philosophy of an author before listening to his opinions. That's why I'm telling you this now. The world has become so complicated that we're all bluffing our way through the business day, hoping we're not unmasked for the boobs that we really are. I see the world as a massively absurd endeavor, populated by people who struggle every minute to rationalize the silly things they do. It's not the business world that brings out our idiocy, but it might be the place where we notice it the most. In our personal lives, we tolerate bizarre behavior. It even seems normal. If you don't believe me, take a look at your family. But at work, we think everyone should be guided by logic and rational thinking. Any absurdity in a business setting stands out like a dead nun in a snowbank. If it bothers you to think about a dead nun, imagine she's only badly wounded and she'll recover. I'm convinced that the workplace doesn't contain more absurdity than everyday life, but it's definitely more noticeable. I find great humor in the fact that we ever take ourselves seriously. We rarely recognize our own idiocies, yet we can clearly identify the idiocies of others. That's the central tension of business. We expect others to act rationally, even though we are irrational. It's useless to expect rational behavior from the people you work with, or anybody else for that matter. If you can come to peace with the fact that you're surrounded by idiots, you'll realize that resistance is futile. Your tension will dissipate, and you can sit back and have a good laugh at the expense of others. This can be very healthy. Scientists believe that humans are the grand result of billions of years of evolution. I can't explain the entire theory, but it can be summarized this way. First, there were some amoebas. Deviant amoebas adapted better to the environment, thus becoming monkeys. Then came total quality management. I'm leaving out some details, but the theory itself has a few holes that are best left unquestioned. Anyway, it took us many years to get to this lofty level of evolution. That leisurely pace of change was okay, because there wasn't much to do except sit around and hope you didn't get eaten by wild pigs. Then somebody fell on a sharp stick, and the